Today's psalm is getting towards the close of the Songs of Ascents. This is the first of the final group of 3 psalms. And once again, there's a progression through the triad, but in this case, the triad doesn't begin with somebody being at a distance from Zion or even traveling there, but all 3 are about being in Zion, and yet there is still a progression in all 3. One of the things that these Songs of Ascents really bring out so clearly and significantly is the importance of Zion in praise. And if we neglect the Psalms and don't sing them and don't know them, then we tend not to realize or we forget that we actually are citizens of Zion, that we come to worship in Zion. The writer to the Hebrews says, you have come not to Mount Sinai, you have come to Mount Zion. You have come to the city of the living God. And so he goes on. So we don't come, as it were, to like a church building to worship. We come to Zion to worship. When we're on our own in worship, we are worshiping in Zion. And it's it's by singing psalms like these, trusting the Holy Spirit as we do so, that he opens our understanding to what it means to be in Zion, what it means to be in the temple of God, in the most holy place, as the writer to the Hebrews says, coming with boldness to the throne of grace, entering in the presence of God. Not God's presence down here, but God's presence in Zion. And by the Spirit and through faith, we are raised up to be with him, just like yesterday's psalm was saying in terms of the intimacy of being in his presence. And so this psalm is emphasizing the importance of Zion. And it's a longer psalm, so I want hopefully to make the introduction a bit briefer. But it's about a very important point in Israel's history when David, the anointed king, and obviously representing God's Messiah, the one spoken of in Psalm 2, made a vow to the Lord that he wouldn't take any rest until he had built a house, a palace, if you want, for Yahweh on earth that was fitting for him. And Yahweh would no longer be dwelling, as it were, in the tabernacle, the tent, but he would have a palace that would be equivalent to the palace that David would build for himself. And as he made the vow, God spoke to Nathan and told Nathan that David wouldn't be the one who would build him a temple, but that God vowed himself he would build David a dynasty. And the Lord said to David, David, did I ever ask anybody to do this? Did I ever ask anybody for a house? Because his dwelling was in heaven, the heavenly Zion. And even as it says in this psalm, once the tabernacle was erected, once the temple even would be built, it would only be God's footstool. And David recognizes that in this psalm, that just as we were saying in some of the other psalms, the temple, the city, weren't ends in themselves. They were aids, visual aids. And as believers listened to what God was saying to them about these visual aids, their faith would rise higher to the reality, the true sacrifice in heaven, the true temple in heaven, the true throne of God in heaven. And so faith would rise using these visual aids. We don't have them in the New Testament church, apart from baptism and the Lord's Supper, of course, but we're still supposed to rise in faith without them into the heavenly Zion and the heavenly Jerusalem. And the second part of the psalm is all about God promising that he would build a house for David, that he would have a son who would sit on his throne, and God would honor him and make his enemies a footstool for his feet. He would cause his enemies to be clothed with shame, but would make his kingly crown shine bright. And so this is a psalm about the importance, the significance of Zion, of being people who worship God in Zion, and above all of our King who is and was appointed by God as David's son and reigns in Zion today until his enemies are made a footstool for his feet. Yahweh, recall David's effort and the trouble he took on, swearing to Yahweh and vowing unto Jacob's mighty one, my own house I will not enter, on my bed I'll not lie down, till for Jacob's powerful ruler, for Yahweh a dwelling is found. In Ephrathah we heard of it, it was found in Jaar's fields. Let us go to Yahweh's dwelling, at his footstool let us kneel. To your place of rest rise, Yahweh, with your mighty ark ascend. Let your people shout with joy, in righteousness your priests attend. For the sake of David, do not from your own anointed one turn away your face, Yahweh. Do not abandon David's son. You will never break the promise that to David you have sworn. From your body I will raise up one who'll sit upon your throne. If my covenant is honored by your sons, and if the rules that I teach are kept, then their sons will forever rule there too. For Yahweh has chosen Zion as the home where he'll reside. Here is where I'll rest forever, here I'll dwell, for this is my desire. I'll abundantly supply her, and her poor with food I'll fill. Clothe her priests with righteousness, with joy I will her people thrill. There I'll raise a horn for David, my anointed's lamp I'll light. Shame will be his enemies' clothing, while they see